Hey, it's Mazzy here. Why do people take this stuff so seriously? I'm always talking about it's the music, stupid. Uh, I want to revisit the Black Sabbath debut, all these versions of it. And I'm doing this because a little over a week ago, my local buddy, Kimbo, came over to my house. We had some people from out of town here, some vinyl community people, and just some music lovers. And he brought four copies of the debut Black Sabbath record for me to audition and listen to, including the UK Vertigo. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I had never heard a UK Vertigo or the NEMS, the UK NEMS, and I have that now. And this is a direct response to the Rhino High Fidelity version, the original Greenie, and the plethora of reviews that have been appearing both on YouTube here and in the Hoffman forums, and everyone's got their opinion. And let me just say this, and this isn't obvious. I've said this before. All this stuff is so subjective. Nobody is wrong, but heads are exploding because of several reviews. I did an early take based on the three copies I had, and I did not have or never heard an original, or at least any of the first two or three UK Vertigo copies. I've never heard them before. And I never heard, except for on a CD, the song Evil Woman that starts off side two, that's on the UK copy. And I will admit, I think that's the weak link on the UK. Now, it's subjective. If you heard that record and that's been in your DNA for 50 years, of course you're going to hear it. I was talking to someone the other day about growing up with Revolver, and up until I think it was 3 years later, after 1966, after that summer when the American Revolver came out, and actually not only the American Revolver, but American Yesterday Today, that had the three or four tracks, I guess from what would be Revolver, they were added to the American, and all of a sudden when I heard 3 years later the mixes on those tracks. I guess Dr. Roberts and, I'm Only Sleeping, and the background guitar. It was unnerving at first. It was really cool hearing a different mix in those days. And we're not talking about different mixes here. We're talking about different masterings here and from different tapes in terms of the Black Sabbath. But it was jarring. But now, 50 years plus, almost 60 years after hearing the UK, those are in my DNA. Those are in my sense memory, and I love those better. But it's fun to go back and listen to those American Revolver versions. And you could say that about anything. What we hear, what we grow up with, we hear at 14, 15 years old, or whenever you got into Black Sabbath or the Beatles and those records, you kind of get used to that. And it is unnerving. Now, maybe we do like the difference just because we like the difference. I had been sick for a few days with the flu, and finally last night and this morning, I continued, listened to the Kimbo versions of these records and brought out my Rhino Hi-Fi again, just to see, because again, Mike from the In-Groove did a whole shootout, and he probably knows the record better than I do. And in his shootout, there is some controversy because he gave the Rhino Hi-Fi number one, the Green American number two, and the UK Vertigo 3 or 5. We don't understand what happened to 3 and 4. He gave it 5, gave it third, and he didn't like it quite as much. I'd never heard it before, so he had switched his position, but he's got a huge, massive audio setup with Wilson speakers, and way beyond what I have. But let me tell you what I have and what I experienced. I'm going to just tell you my updated comparison, not in detail, but just a little bit. First of all, those of you who don't follow me, I have a Hagel H390 amplifier receiver, and has something like 250 watts mono per channel left and right within it. A very clean, wonderful amplifier, and it changed the dynamics when I got it about a year and a half ago, I guess. It really changed the sound of my speakers. Now, I have Bauer & Wilkins 703 S2 speakers, with some considered bright, but they're well broken in. I do have a slightly bright room. I don't have room treatment. People know I enjoy music where I live. So it's not a dark, dead man cave totally tricked out with baffling and everything. And I enjoy it because I have friends over. I like to listen to music that way. So I'll tell you that right off the bat. My turntable is a Riga P8 with a Hana Umami blue cartridge, well broken in now, and it's a beautiful cart and very forgiving. These copies that Kimbo gave me are fairly quiet. I mean, they're more quiet than my original shootout with the Canadian greenie that matches the American. Now, I did play that again, and to me, the American greenie and the Canadian greenie are almost identical. So we'll just kind of leave those out. The 2010 Rhino, I didn't like at all, and I'm going to be getting rid of that. I mean, I liked it when I had it, but once I compare it to the Rhino and the American Greenie, it's not worth it. I don't need to have it in my collection. I haven't heard later Rhino copies up until the high fidelity, so I'll give you that. Now, heads are exploding because of Michael's review when he gave the number 1 to the Rhino Hi-Fi, 2 again to the American Greenie, and 3 to the Vertigo. It gets complicated and confusing, doesn't it? This is entertainment purposes only, and it's so subjective. Patrick P.B. Thal, who's an expert, had the opposite. He did an online drop of the things, and most people like the Vertigo, and a lot of people love that Vertigo. And I can't argue with them. If you like it and that's what you like about it, so be it. Now, I need to mention the Hoffman forums because there is a thread about this that I was on. And because of one commenter, who will remain nameless, and I don't need to call him out. Him and I had a little sparring thing, maybe because he jumped on all over, not to me specifically at first, but about YouTubers and how can you trust YouTubers? How can you trust people getting free records? I got a free copy of the Rhino Hi-Fi, but most of the time when I do these, it's not about free records. And even by getting a copy, I like in my original review, I like the Greenie original more than the Rhino Hi-Fi, but I thought they were not far apart. I did not review the Vertigo. And he got very personal to me and other YouTubers and said some obnoxious comments, and I basically lost it and went directly at him, and I knew, and I even said, okay, Gorts are the people that monitor the Hoffman forums. I think you can ban me from this. So I'm locked out of that forum, probably for good. It's been about 3 weeks, and I'm not allowed back in, probably to the betterment. And some people came to my support. I don't need the support. I appreciate it. But I understand when people get free records, if they love music and they're honest about their opinions, and I've always been honest. I don't like everything I get free. And when I was in the record business and people get free promos, that's exactly what promos are about. You know, Michael Fremer gets free promos. Doesn't mean he likes it more just because he gets it free. Or the hundreds of other reviewers and store managers and DJs, or in the old days, DJs, probably not anymore. That is how record companies promote product. And there's something coming that I'm getting from another label. And the guy said to me, it's in the mail now, an upcoming major release. And he said, please be honest if you do showcase it. So I don't think they expect everyone to, fall over their release and say they're all wonderful. They want to know. Now, of course, they like better reviews. I'm not naive about that. But anyway, so that's why I'm not in that thread, but I have been reading the Hoffman thread about that, and it's really interesting. Some people supporting Mike Ingroove and his review, and some going, oh, he's crazy, he's got his hand in the till, although you can't buy these records anymore. He can never retail them. Oh, because he has a connection with Kevin Gray. I mean, that's full of shit. Anyway, so we'll leave it at that. I think they left my comment up against that wanker. I'll call him a wanker. I'll leave it at that. But the Rhino Hi-Fi, I listened to this again. I've been listening to it for a long time. And last week, over a week ago, I had some friends in town. They wanted to hear my stereo, these friends from Canada and a friend from Santa Monica. And we played the Rhino one, and they actually really liked it. Now, the key is the song we played was the opening track, Wicked World, on side 2, which I think is the better track than Evil Woman on the UK. That makes this album, to me, musically a better record. Evil Woman, as great as it is, the cover track, I think it's an okay track. This is the better track, but whatever you're used to, fair. That's totally fair. But we listened to this and they liked it. Then we put on the American Greenie. One of the American, this is one. This isn't the one, I forgot. We put on one of the originals, or the Canadian original, Artisan, by the way. And the bass on that track, on Wicked World, kicked ass, really, literally, over the Rhino hi-fi. I agreed, but it seemed more dramatic at the time than I recall it sounding. But that bass was just so amazing on the Artisan over this. Now, this is no slouch. I will say that both the Americans, after listening to the Vertigo, now here's the Vertigo, my friend Kimbo's copy. It's the second press, we decided, because it doesn't have the company, I guess the distributor or the major label, and it has the all capital. So this is determined to be a second, which is very similar or identical to the first. So that's what I listened to. It's a very wonderful, clean copy. And I tell you this, first of all, that opening cut on track 2, let's go to side 2 first. I think all in all, side 2 on all the copies is better than side 1 sonically. Now, musically, that's subjective. I love the entire album, but side 2 just gives that extra punch, okay? I found the Vertigo brighter than the Rhino or the American, which I didn't like. I'm not a big fan of really bright mastering. So I've heard some say that Kevin Gray is brighter. I don't agree at all. I thought this was brighter. Not in a bad way brighter, but just brighter. I did play Evil Woman, and I've heard it before only on CD. I've never heard it on vinyl. And the bass on that, on the Vertigo, is incredible. But obviously, we don't have anything to compare here. The bass on that is great. The opening track, I still give it to the Americans here. I like that tape. I like the Warner Brothers tape. And one thing that I said in my earlier review is I found the US, the stereo, to be wider stereo, which I prefer. I've always been a fan of wide stereo. I'm a fan of the stereo Sgt. Pepper over the mono. I know the mono Pepper is the way the Artisan tent originally, the way you got to hear it. And I do like it. It's more of a rock and roll sound, tighter sound of Pepper in stereo. But I love the in mono, excuse me. I love the wider separation of Pepper in stereo. I just love, I think it works for that record. But to me, overall, the bass and the drums especially, I love on the Americans. And this isn't an American British thing, but I'm using that as Vertigo versus Warner's. I like the drum snap. It's a tighter snap on my system, my room, my ears, on the Warner, both the Warners. Again, I still give the Warner original, or one of the first or second presses, number 1. Rhino number 2, not back by a lot, but number 2. But my original Warner Greenie is noisy. Kimbo's is a lot silencer. So if he's not looking, I may swap him out. Don't tell him. The Vertigo is 3rd, but not by a lot. And if I didn't have, I mean, all these are fantastic. The Vertigo is a fantastic cut. It's a fantastic sounding record. I'm not dissing it. It could be because I'm not used to 50 years of listening to it. And that's totally fair. And we all get protective, defensive, and used to a certain record we've heard all these years. These are the Kimbo copies. Now, I'm not going to get into detail, but he also gave me, I believe this is a second pressing NEMS, I think. This, to me, wasn't anywhere near as good as the Vertigo. Interesting. So I didn't really dwell on it. Then the other track I really concentrated on was Sleeping Village, the long track that, on side 2. And I thought the bass and drums on the American still exceeded the Vertigo. Again, it's on my system. The way I listened to it, I played each one twice. I went back and forth. I played it all the way through, not just portions. And the Vertigo is very good. I'm not dissing the Vertigo. Again, maybe I'm not used to it, but I give the Warners in both cases top billing on these. But all three are great. But I'm only doing this as an update because I had never heard it before, and I think it's fair to me now. I feel after having the Rhino for almost a month now and had listened to it maybe 7, 8 times now, I have a better understanding of it. And getting into this album more, I have a better understanding of the entire record. I'll admit that. One thing taken into consideration, as far as I know, Michael from the In Groove is in his late 30s, even though he looks 50. He's in his late 30s. I'm almost 70. Patrick is what, in his 50s, I guess. Think about Mike's hearing. Theoretically, he should have the best, clearest hearing over a lot of us older first generation, second generation Black Sabbath fans. I don't know that for a fact, but you got to take that into consideration. His room is probably a lot is more treated than the rest of it. He's got that perfect setup. He's got the Wilson speakers again. But that shouldn't make a difference. You know, you're still comparing the various records in your system, in your room. Just because my room is bright doesn't mean, you know, is it making the Vertigo brighter? Maybe, but wouldn't it make everything else brighter as well? You know, so that is just my update. Take it or leave it. Take whatever you want. And it's just a personal opinion based, I think, on a fair analysis of records. I don't like to do analysis very often. And in closing, you know, one thing that kind of has been bugging me lately since the television Marquee Moon release is this thing about artist intent. That is also a subjective thing when an artist is not around, and when people are you know, mastering or mixing things for modern gear. You know, it's not the original, no. But what is artist intent? What do they really think? We don't know unless they're going to answer themselves. In my recent video, it's the Music Stupid, I talk about the instrumental Tom Verlaine album that was just reissued, which is fantastic, by the way. Go watch that video or just check out the record on Real Music. Is it Real Gone Music? And the partner of Tom Verlaine in the liner notes talks about tweaking the highs a little bit. And obviously, when that CD came out, Tom Verlaine made a decision how it should sounded. So all of a sudden, 40 years later, has that changed? Or 30 years later, should that be valid against the artist intent? I don't think so. It sounds fantastic on the stereo. So thanks for watching. Comments below. This doesn't have to be controversial, but I just wanted to add my updated take on this album. Mazzy loves you. Thanks a lot.